Hi, I'm Johnny Reid from A1 Team New Zealand, and today I'm here to talk to you about the A1 GP steering wheel. The pedals behind the steering wheel here, you have one on the right, and that's for shifting up the gears, and on the left you've got a pedal for shifting down the gears. There's no clutch needed, and it's a flat shift. And one of the most important elements on the steering wheel is the radio button. Now, we use this to communicate with the team, to negotiate when to pit, and obviously to talk about the problems we're having with the car during the race or during a practice session to nail the perfect car for that one lap you need in qualifying. The first yellow button here you see, that's basically to get the car into neutral. You have to pop the clutch and push the button and it goes straight to neutral, no matter what gear you're in. And the blue button here, this is for the pit lane speed limiter, and basically it controls the car's speed in the pit lane for safety regulations. This green button is the power boost button, we call it, and basically what it does is raises the engine's rev limit 500 RPM from 9,000 RPM to 9,500 RPM. To activate this button you have to hold the button down while over 80% throttle, and you can only use it in a sprint race or a feature race. I have to be holding this button down the whole time. If I go over a bump and jump like that, then we lose one of the 4 power boosts we have for the sprint race and one of the 8 that we have in the feature race, and that's an A1 GP steering wheel.
Round 4 of the 2007-2008 season sees the A1 GP teams heading to a new circuit. Zhuhai lies in the picturesque Guangdong province of China. A1 GP TV caught up with the drivers and asked how they prepared for the challenges faced when learning a new track.
Well, obviously learning a circuit as quickly as possible is a huge part of what we do. And throughout your career you have to do it quite a bit, so you get quite good at it. And a lot of drivers have different systems. The first thing you have to do is just try and learn as much as you can from the circuit from the outside. You look at track maps, any onboard footage you can find is incredibly helpful. I know, it's a bit cliche, but sometimes video games do help just to kind of get a general feel of the circuit. But then once you're out on track, what I tend to do is kind of break the track out into higher speed, medium speed, and lower speed corners. And then just try and focus on what the car's doing through those different types of corners. And then what I need to do as a driver to kind of push the limits. Obviously, different track surfaces kind of give you different amounts of grip, and it's just a lot of exploring, a lot of experimentation. And the biggest thing is you can't be shy. You really have to go out and push, because if you don't really have the circuit sorted within 8 to 10 laps, you're going to be really behind the ball.
Most of the circuits you can you get your track map and everything before, so you have an idea where everything goes. But once you get here, then you just walk the circuit really, have a good look at it. And it all comes down to practice. Get out there, you know what gears everything should be, and just get up to speed. Don't do anything silly at the start, but you don't hang around either. You still have to run 80, 85, 90%.
You can talk to drivers who have driven there and maybe learn a bit from them before you go out. But still, when you go out, you learn so much more than talking about it. On the first lap you learn basically everything, and you have to try to find out all the braking points and stuff like that already in the out lap, so you can do already a proper first lap time. And that's the main thing, to get working on the car as soon as possible, and not on yourself, because you need time to work on the car.
I think now I've got very good at walking a track, and you can learn a lot from just that. Whether it be the Wednesday, Thursday before, walk the track a couple of times, and as a driver you get a good sense of what speed or what gear you should be in. So I think the top drivers can learn tracks quickly, and it's very important.
A1 GP teams practice pit stops to perfection, but it's the tyres that can make the difference between ending the race in the gravel trap or on the podium.
There's a great deal of variety in A1 GP. We travel around the whole world, and as such we encounter a vast amount of variability in terms of circuit, in terms of ambient, track conditions. We go from tropical conditions, from very wet to very dry, and as such we have to design a tyre that can cope with everything. There are 2 options of tyre in A1 GP. You have a full slick and a wet. The wet is more biased towards a full monsoon tyre, but it also has to cope with very rapidly drying conditions which we face in some of the more tropical climates. The other option is a slick tyre. A slick tyre is a tyre which doesn't have a tread pattern and as such is optimised for pure dry running. Therefore you have the maximum amount of compound in contact with the surface at any one time, which gives the ultimate amount of key and therefore the maximum amount of grip available. During the session, the track will generally improve. The more rubber that is applied to the circuit generally provides more grip for the tyre. That can be seen in qualifying. A lot of the teams you will see will play a tactical game where they'll try and leave their qualifying lap as long as possible towards the end of the session, which is again another factor in A1GP where the teams can use their tyres to their advantage.
A1GP, certainly more than any other series that I've run in terms of managing your tyres over the weekend, is incredibly important. Traditionally, we get, like I said, we get 5 sets of tyres, so traditionally you have one set that you run for both the first 2 hour-long practice sessions.
Then in qualifying, you got to decide, do you use 2 new sets for sprint or for feature race qualifying, which is always a difficult one.
You're going to see a massive jump in grip, you know, and a massive drop in time, so it's really difficult from a driver's point of view to kind of reach that threshold early. You usually then also have one new set left over for the race, but there's different strategies there. You know, if you spin in practice and flat spot a set, you need to put on a new set in practice, sort of thing. So it's very, very important that in practice you conserve enough tire that you don't have to use any of your qualifying sets, and that when you've got your qualifying sets on, you really maximize them.
Hello, I'm Ben Edwards and I'm the world feed commentator for A1GP, and this is my world at an A1GP weekend. What have we got here? Well, first of all, I suppose the most important thing is the monitor showing the picture, because although we have a window looking over the circuit, we can only see a very small portion of the circuit. So most of the time we're actually working off the TV screen, much like you're watching at home. On each side we have timing monitors. Now these are giving us all the time the lap times of each individual car, the fastest sector times. It gives us a huge amount of information that we can then build around our commentary and hopefully tell everybody what's going on. And the way we tell everybody what's going on, of course, is through the microphone. Our lip mics try and cut out as much extraneous noise as possible, and they're all connected to this magic box in the middle here. Now don't ask me too much about what that does, I just twiddle the knobs. Through that I'm hearing what the producer's telling me, what the director wants me to do, and the countdowns to various different things we have to think about. So while I'm talking away, I'm hearing all this in my ear and I'm trying to make sense of it, whilst also watching the monitor, seeing what's going on circuit, and trying to tell the story of what's happening. Now hopefully I know quite a lot about what's going on in A1GP, but I can't memorize everything. So my notes are very important to me. So here we've got event trivia. Sometimes you have it in your head, sometimes you've got to glance down and look at the right piece of information at the right time. Sometimes you don't get it quite right, but hopefully most of the time we get the information right and we get the message across. So there we are, that is the commentator's world. Of course there is something fairly vital missing in this little scenario, and that's my co-commentator, John Watson.
Thank you, Ben. Well, I've got different responsibilities to Ben Edwards in the commentary booth. When I come to the circuit on a Thursday, the first thing I do is I come into this garage to talk to the engineers that look after my A1GP car. On a Friday morning, I'm the guy that goes out on a track that's green and has to find out precisely what the track's going to offer us over a weekend. And the purpose of doing this is for my track analysis. When the action on the circuit stops, for example, on the Friday morning after the rookie session or maybe after qualifying, I've got to go down the pit lane to get information from the teams and also from the drivers, because that's a part of what builds up the bank of information that we give you, the audience, in the qualifying show and of course in the 2 races on the Sunday. Now, aside from all this, I'm also responsible for the post-qualifying and post-feature race interviews in the Pangaea on a Saturday and a Sunday afternoon. It finishes with talking to the top 3 drivers in the feature race. I love it. I hope you do too.
Hi, I'm John Martin from A1 Team Australia, and I'm here to talk to you about aerodynamics. Here we have the front wing. Basically the air flows in through here, up over the wing. You can adjust this here up and down for more downforce. Like if you have it up like that, it gives you a lot more downforce. The air basically flows through underneath here, creates a low pressure area underneath the wing, and that sucks the car onto the road. Okay, so here we have the Team Australia A1GP car rear wing. It's very similar to the front wing, as I explained before. You have holes on the side of the wing end plate here that tilts, that you can adjust the wing up or down. At the moment here it's set on full downforce. That'll affect top speed a little bit, but Here the straights are reasonably short, so it's not going to matter too much. Basically what you're trying to achieve with the front and the rear wing is total balance of the two. So if you've got like a little bit of understeer or something like that and it's a reasonably fast track, you might take the rear wing down like a 1 or 2 holes usually. That'll improve the understeer and make the car more balanced for you to drive. So here we have the rear diffuser on the A1 GP car. Basically we try and run the car as low as possible to the ground. This creates, all this here will be lower. So when the air rushes out through the back here, you can see this is angled up. It allows the air to escape faster. This sucks the car to the road a lot better. When we run the car really low to the ground, these boards underneath here usually just touch the ground a little bit, and we have to change these out every day most of the time. So basically that's the aerodynamics of the Team Australia A1 GP car. Thanks for listening.
Preparing for a race is a thorough and exhaustive process. Drivers and teams look at every detail to gain even the slightest competitive advantage. A1GP TV talked to Team USA and got tips on how to be best prepared for the racing weekend.
Basically, we go for a track walk, we look at data. You know, we've spent about 2 hours today walking around the track and checking out each corner and how the surface is and what debris has been on the track and how the corners align and if there's any new corners come onto the circuit since the last time we've driven. You know, and then we go onto the data and also look at what gears we're in, braking points, you know, throttle pickup, many of the aspects for the driving style.
We use that starting setup as a baseline for my rookie session when I get the first chance to see the track live at speed. If anything's changed, the grip levels have changed, how it's developed, if the asphalt's gotten rougher or smoother, if they've resurfaced it, reprofiled any corners, that sort of thing. We start with the old information and use that as a good foundation to work forward from.
For especially the feature race, we have a lot of fuel put in for the race, and of course in qualifying, you know, we only have 1 lap versus in a feature race we run for 70 minutes, so you have a lot of fuel. So we'll tend to, you know, possibly either raise the car because of it going lower or stiffen it up a little to help with the car from bottoming out. And then of course you have to figure out some way of keeping the tires to stay strong throughout the whole race, and that may mean from softening the suspension to either softening the tires or giving the tires a bit more pressure, or whichever way would work best for holding the tires the longest to give you a constant performance.
Start is crucial, and at really tight circuits like Taupo in South Africa, if you can't have a good start, your race is almost ruined, because that's pretty much the best opportunity to overtake.
The rolling start, you look actually that you get a pole position, because that's a pretty sure win then, as you control the whole field. If you are second, third, fourth, it's already a lot more tricky. Then the standing start, well, you just practice it in the pits, and you see what is the tarmac grip, what is the outside temperature, and then it's all about feeling, I would say. Clutch, throttle, and warming up the rear tires.
I enjoy both starts, you know, the standing start and the rolling start. They're both a different style altogether, and they require a different technique, and there's nothing better than overtaking cars because you know you've nailed the start, and you know, it puts a big smile on your face.
But it also depends where you qualify, how far back you are. You want to try and think about what the corner's like. If it's very tight, you might want to think about going around the outside because it's a traffic jam. But if you're very far back, you know a lot of cars are going to try and go around the outside anyway. I like to have a couple plans going into the start about which way I want to go, whether it's right or left or down the middle. Plans don't work out, and you have to be ready to just go on instinct.
Hi, I'm Adam Carroll from A1 Belmain Team Ireland, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the pit stop from a driver's point of view. We enter the pit lane at full racing speed, get slowed down to 60 kilometers an hour, keep your finger on the button, about 60% throttle. So once then you enter the pits, you know where your team garage is, and your main point of reference is your team manager. He has a lollipop.
And the car has come to a complete stop. 7 of us move out from behind the line and get into their positions. 2 jackmen lift the car up. The front right tyre changer runs around the front of the car with his wheel and gun. The right rear runs around with his gun only. Then you move on to the left rear. Left rear carries his own wheel out. He then carries on with the change.
And then you must trust your team manager with the lollipop, 100%, because he must himself make sure that everything's done and it's time to go and there's not another car coming, because it's extremely tight and easy to crash. So as soon as he lifts the lollipop, you're full throttle, dump the clutch and make sure your finger is back on the button, 60 kilometers an hour, all the way out and back into the race.
G-force is a measurement of an object's acceleration expressed in Gs. G-forces are generated at all times. We live in a world at 1G. A1 drivers experience G-forces of around 3.5 G on a typical A1 GP circuit. A1 GP TV spoke to both technicians and drivers to learn all about this powerful phenomenon.
In simple terms, obviously the G-force that is exerted by the racing car, both on itself and on the driver, is 1, 2, 3 or 4 times the actual weight of the actual vehicle or the driver. Here we have the lateral G of the car, the G-force which obviously the car is experiencing from left to right. Here on the trace is the G-force which is acceleration and deceleration of the car. And of course on the bottom we have the speed trace. Towards the end of the trace, in the last turn, this very high G for a very long sustained period at over 3G, whilst at the same time experiencing 1.5 G acceleration, so very large forces, both laterally and longitudinally on the body.
The G-forces, as they're going round the corners, you see they're turning the head into the corner to try and compensate for the force as the car goes round, trying to throw the head to the outside. So you need to be well strapped in, and it's putting a lot of stress on the muscles because you're holding yourself in a position trying to hold onto the steering wheel, but also all the internal organs are being thrown about quite a lot, as well as the braking forces.
Well, it feels pretty normal to us. Just when you experience more G, things like your head gets heavier, so your neck has to work a lot. The steering can get very heavy. It depends on which circuit you go to, the level of fitness required or how hard it gets in the car. These cars are very physically demanding through the steering, so your arms and shoulder and upper body takes quite a beating.
A1 GP cars are fast and furious on any circuit, but in Mexico City, the altitude and ambient temperature present the technicians with a higher challenge.
The engine performance is corrected, measured on a dynamometer and corrected for altitude and temperature. And the corrections datum is sea level. At sea level, at a circuit, for instance, Durban, where we were last time, this engine produces its maximum efficiency because we're at sea level. The altitude in Mexico City, 2,240 metres, represents a reduction in density of that air that's going in by about 20%. The 20% reduction in density that we see at this altitude presents the engine with a 20% reduction in throughput of air that can support the combustion of the fuel we add to it. In order to burn that fuel properly, we've got to reduce the amount of fuel to match the reduced amount of air. So we end up with a 20% reduction in power. What we have in Mexico City, because of the built-up area, we have a high ambient temperature of around about 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. Hot air is also thinner air, and again, that saps the mass of airflow through the engine by yet another 8%. So on a normal day like we've had today, where the air temperature is round about 28 degrees C, we are looking at a reduction in power of about 25%. And we are talking about 520 horsepower at sea level being reduced to something like 380 horsepower for Mexico City on a warm day.
Despite the loss in engine power, the spectacle of A1 GP refuses to be reduced. Rookies are an important part of A1 GP. They help set up cars, gain valuable information for the team, and also it gives them the chance to impress for a race seat. But the ultimate aim is to help their team find the ultimate race car.
Friday morning, we run at 11 o'clock for 25 minutes and then 10-minute break and another 25-minute session. The rookie drivers normally have to be under 28 years old and they need to do no more than 6 races.
Each team uses the rookie session differently. Team France rookie Nicolas Prost has been in the seat just a couple of times this season, so before he was able to provide the team with any useful feedback, he had to get to grips with the car.
When it's the first times with the rookie, it's mostly for the rookie to learn. Then when the rookie gets up to speed, you know, you can already get a good idea from how the car is for the track, and you're acting a little bit like a test driver.
A1 Team Netherlands rookie driver Arie Luijendijk Jr. and lead driver Jeroen Blikkemolen have a unique relationship. With no competition for the race seat, both are able to share information, and as a result, the team find the rookie sessions extremely useful.
It's Arie's duty to just support Jeroen as much as possible in technical feedback and experience and perception and stuff like that. And on the other hand, it's Jeroen's duty to just make Arie perform as good as possible.
Every Thursday before an event, we'll do like a track walk with our engineers and Jeroen as well. And we'll go over things like what he experienced last year, and then that helps me out for, you know, gives me a step ahead for the rookie session. And then once I drive, you know, like just let him know where the bumps are, what might be different from last year.
You know, in this situation, there's no pressure on both of us, and you're just there to do a good job. And I think when you're challenging for the same seat, you have to be honest to each other. You shouldn't tell each other rubbish or things that aren't correct. So that's really a big help.
Often the rookie sessions flag up vital problems with the car, which is invaluable for the teams.
High, when the rookie session started, Aaron went out for his first lap and we lost the clutch on the car, and the car didn't run for the rest of the session. Okay, unfortunately for Aaron, it happened to him, but he did his job. We found the problem, which would have been a massive disaster for Alex. The rookie session is the most fantastic thing that's happened to motor racing. So I think it's the biggest asset we have in the sport.
The Friday morning session is undoubtedly a chance for the rookie to show their potential, and for some drivers, it has led to bigger and better things.
The classic case of that was John Martin, who came into the team as a rookie, impressed us no end, went out into the rookie sessions, attacked every circuit with great verve, ended up sort of second and third and first quickest in the rookie sessions, and it was because of those performances, quite frankly, that he's now our lead driver.